Well, I said in my last video that I'd tell you about a legendary hoax that I caused on the Blizzard forums. And Krejcikevin commented on my last video that he asked me if I'd got the Sulfurous Hammer, which some of you, if you haven't played Warcraft, there are items in the game that are so hard to get. You can play for like over a year and you never get them. You have to be like a guild leader, or you have to have some kind of influence, because it takes 40 people to get some of these items, and you have to somehow convince 39 other people that you're the one that deserves to get this thing. They don't want to just give it to just anybody that could quit the guild or quit the game, because that's over a year's worth of work just to get some kind of legendary item sometimes, so they don't want to waste it. No, I didn't get the Sulfurous Hammer. We're actually talking about the Hand of Ragnaros. Sulfurous Hand of Ragnaros. And Ragnaros is a gigantic fire elemental that is the end boss in Molten Core, which is the first instance that you need 40 people to run. But you don't really need 40 people, but at first, if you have crappy gear, you're going to need 40. But this is what he looks like. He's gigantic. And that big hammer that he's wielding, that's the Sulfurous Hammer. But when he drops it, it'll look gigantic, and you'll get it, and it's like a... You don't automatically get the legendary item. It's not like you have to pick it up and whoever picks it up first gets it. You get the Sulfurous Hammer, and then you'd have to get Sulfuran ingots and some other stuff to put it together to make the legendary item. And when you do, it's like a hell of a lot of damage, a lot of fire damage, so it's like you can pretty much kick anybody's ass with that. So that's why a lot of guilds fall apart. People like get into big arguments and fights, and the leadership changes. People don't want them to be their leaders anymore if they take it, and they don't let anybody else vote on it or something like that. So one of the problems with running a guild on Warcraft, it's a lot of drama and political stuff, but that's not really the weapon that I was trying to get. I was trying to get the Thunder Fury. It's the one-handed sword. It's got like lightning damage. And what it does is when you hit something with it, it has a chance to make little tornadoes which keep whatever you're hitting like kind of stuck where they can't hit you. They're in a tornado. So if you keep proccing this thing, if you can hit fast enough with it and you have a shield, you could pretty much... There was a Night Elf warrior that went through like the high-level instances, just him and another guy. It takes usually 5-10 people to do this, but it was just him and another guy. He was just kicking everything's ass, and the other guy would keep him healed, and there was nothing to it. So you can like use it to grind over the same mobs over and over and kill the same thing, and they'll drop really good items, and you get a lot of money. And here's what the thing looks like. It drops off another gigantic boss like Ragnaros called Prince Thunderan. And there's a couple of epic items you need out of Molten Core to make that too. Pretty rare items that you have to get, but I don't think he's as hard to kill as Ragnaros. I think he's pretty easy. And he's also gigantic, and he looks really cool. It was like a freaking tornado samurai or something. And there's a way you can like get these things to follow you instead of having to fight them where they're at. Like this guy's like way far away from the major cities. But there's videos of guys that have somehow gotten aggro from him, and he gets them to chase him, and they keep shooting him and running away like too far where he can't hit you, so he follows you all the way back to town. They do this with dragons and other gigantic things. Like they'll bring a dragon into the middle of Orgrimmar, and the dragon will just go ape shit and kill everybody in town because nobody can... Well, sometimes they'll kill it, but he'll go through quite a few people because all the noobs like hang out in the big towns. They're all there just starting out or whatever, and nobody can deal with like hundreds and hundreds of damage of poison gas or something coming out of a dragon. So anyway, yeah, I really wanted this Thunder Fury, but it wasn't really going to happen. I'm a paladin. Nobody's going to give that to a paladin. So what my legendary hoax was about. Now this, keep in mind, this was back before the Naxxramas patch and all this Burning Crusade stuff came out. This was back when nobody knew about how to get the Ashbringer sword. This is the legendary of the legendary swords. This sword, it doesn't really look all that special. It's a two-handed sword, but it's got like a big glowing orb in the blade of it. Now, there was all kinds of like different kind of things in the game that would give you hints about it, but nobody would really tell you how to get it straight out. There was a guy that you learn your expert fishing off of named Nat Pagel. And you would get a book in the battlegrounds that says he fished it up one day. And there's another clue that you had to go to, you had to fish up this note out of this little pond behind the secret ninja village over in Hillsbrad. And then, like, it all tied in with Prince Tortheldrin in Dire Maul. You had to go talk to him, or you had to kill Nefarian in Blackwing Lair, which I've only killed Nefarian one time, and I played for like a year and a half or something like that. So he's like one of the hardest dragons in the game. And you have to, people thought you had to like kill him and take his head to the guy, or somehow you had to tell him a story that would make him interested enough to tell you about the sword, or And there's another guy in Eastern Plaguelands. He would say things every now and then, like an NPC that walks around. He would give hints about it. And there's all kinds of lore related to this thing, and people just studied about it and tried to figure out how to find it. People would get their fishing level up to like insane, like 420, 30 points, and try to fish it up in every different place. People would report to each other on websites where they fished, what they got, trying to figure out any clues related to it. Now the story, I don't know exactly where they got this information, but if you go to ashbringer.com, there's a lot of lore on it. And the story was that this Archmage Timolein would create these weapons for the Scarlet Crusade, which is one of the factions in the game that it's like a big bunch of knights. And one of the instances of the Scarlet Monastery, there's a guy named Mograine, High Lord Mograine, and it was a sword for his father that he'd made. Now the lore went that the Archmage was killed on the way to bringing the sword to the guy. He had like a wagon, like a little convoy or whatever, and he got attacked by something, and he was devoured by a slime. Now, in the Western Plaguelands, there's a cave, and there's a bunch of slimes. It's the only place in the Western Plaguelands where you'll find slimes. This is supposedly on the route to Tyr's Hand, or the other place where the Scarlet Crusade's at in the Plaguelands, and he was taking it to them from the Scarlet Monastery, or something like that. So, you used to be able to kill one of these slimes that was different from the other one. The slime could, like, cast spells or something like that. He would shoot magic missiles or something at you, but if you killed this slime, he had a chance to drop this Timolein's phylactery item, which a phylactery is like a magical box or something that you store things in. So people always thought that there was some way that you would unlock that or use it somehow to find this sword. And if you go to the bridge that crosses over the eastern to the western Plaguelands, there's a river. And if you swim underneath the bridge, there's some crashed carts. It looks like somebody had like assaulted this caravan of where he's bringing the sword. So there's all kinds of different things, like people trying to figure out how to get it. So what I did was, I got the Photoshop program out, and I found a wagon over in the Western Plaguelands just south of that cave. Just a wagon sitting there next to a tree, and there's some boxes around it. I thought this was odd. I thought it might have something to do with it. And while I was thinking about this, I thought, well, I'll just go ahead, Photoshop myself kneeling down next to this box. Because when you loot something out of the game and you kill something, or you open a box, you kneel down and you pick it up out of the box. So I went to Ironforge, went outside in the snow, because white's a good color to Photoshop with. You can get rid of it easily. And I killed a wolf, starving winter wolf. And I looted it for some meat. And I took a screenshot of the wolf meat and me kneeling down. So I deleted everything around that to make it transparent, and then I put it next to this box in the Western Plaguelands where I took a screenshot. And there's also, like, the sword, the Ashbringer sword actually was in the game, but nobody could get it. Like the game developers who played the game, they had it. You could see them carrying it sometimes if you ever run upon one of them. And you could inspect them and you could see the stats for it, and it had the little icon, and people had they put pictures of it on the internet. So I took one of those pictures and I had it scaled down to where it would match up to my wolf meat, and I made it overlap it, and I changed the background so it looked realistic. And I made a pretty good Photoshop of me looting this sword out of this box. And on the WoW forums, if you say something about the Ashbringer, it's going to get quite a bit of attention. If you put something on the general forums, people are not usually going to pay much attention to you. It's hard to get views from your little forum posts. But I had about 20,000 plus views the first day that I posted that. People were like calling me a liar and like trying to figure out what was going on and pointing out mistakes that I made. And I don't know what exactly the mistakes were, I forgot, but here's the picture. Let me just show you the picture of it. And what they didn't notice about it was that the box isn't even open. Like when you open a chest or a box in the game, the lid opens. And this box is still closed. So then, I think this was around April Fool's. It was about April or something when I did this. And there was some other April Fool's Blizzard stuff they were doing, but also on the WoW forums, to get one of the game developers to respond to you is called a blue response. That's what they call it, because their text appears as blue. And it's kind of hard to get them to notice your post or get them to say anything, but I got a guy to post on my forum thread saying that I hadn't really got it or something like that, but he didn't come right out and say I hadn't got it. He just said that it's not attainable in the game or something like that. And then later on somebody said that would be funny if it was a Photoshop to make a picture of me looting it from a rat. So I did the same exact thing, only instead of looting it out of this chest, I went into the Deep Run Tram in Ironforge and I killed a rat, and I did the same Photoshop thing, and here's what that picture was. So that was pretty funny. And that's about it on the Ashbringer sword. After the Naxxramas patch came out, everybody sees that you have to get the corrupted Ashbringer off one of the 4 horsemen guys, and you have to take it back to Mograine and Scarlet Crusade, or Scarlet Monastery. It's a shame that I didn't even really get to play Next Remus by the time I had unsubscribed. I got attuned to where I could get in there and look around. I think I got something to chase me and kick my ass, but I didn't really get to fight anything because I couldn't get the rest of my guild to go.